My name is Daniel Brooks. I'm 42 years old. For nearly 2 decades, I worked in IT infrastructure, designing, building, and maintaining systems most people don't even realize are running behind their businesses. I wasn't flashy. I wasn't political. But I was reliable. I showed up early, stayed late, solved crises before they ever became visible. 16 years. That's how long I gave to Grayson and Wells Industries, a mid-size manufacturing company in Ohio. I helped them scale from a 30-person shop to a 300-person operation with fully integrated systems, cloud backups, and security so tight, not even a mouse could slip through unnoticed. And for a while, I thought that meant something. I thought loyalty, results, and quiet consistency were still worth something in the corporate world. But then, one Thursday morning, my boss walked into my office, no knock, no warning, and dropped the words that made my heart stop cold. "Hey Dan, we've got a new guy joining next week. I want you to train him. He'll be handling some of your responsibilities moving forward." I blinked. "Some of my responsibilities?" He just smiled. "It's a transition plan. Nothing to worry about. You've earned a lighter workload." It didn't feel like a compliment. It felt like being slowly erased. The next Monday, Brandon showed up. Polished, 28, cocky. Didn't bring a notepad. Just a flashy laptop and the kind of grin that says, "I'm not here to learn. I'm here to replace you." I was told he had startup energy and big picture vision. But on day 1, he asked me how to reboot the network printer. By day 3, he asked where our disaster recovery backups were stored. That was the moment I knew. I wasn't training a colleague. I was training my replacement. And the worst part? Everyone else already knew. I'd like to say I stood up, made a scene, fought for my role, but I didn't. I stayed calm. I smiled. And in that exact moment, I made a silent decision. If they want him to run the show, I'll make sure he gets exactly what he asked for. Just not the way he thinks. Before Brandon ever walked through that door. Before the betrayal, the insult, the quiet backstab. I actually loved my job. Really, genuinely, I did. Grayson and Wells may not have been Google or Microsoft, but it was ours. We were a tight team, engineers, developers, warehouse crew, even the front desk lady, Susan. Everyone knew each other. We held monthly breakfasts. We celebrated birthdays. I'd get in early, power up the systems, run my overnight logs. The hum of the server room, that low, steady buzz, it felt like peace, like purpose. Back then, my office was full of little things. Old Cisco manuals, photos from our first data center install, my Army ID badge. I served for 6 years in communications before civilian life. There was pride in what we built. The boss? His name was Rick Delaney. Mid-50s. Always wore custom shoes and used phrases like vertical synergy and disrupting the space. He wasn't technical, but he knew how to sell, and for a while, that worked. Rick and I had an understanding. I kept systems running like a ghost in the machine. He brought in the contracts and kept the board off my back. For 10 years, that dance worked just fine. He even told me once during a site outage, "If you ever leave, Dan, I might just follow you out the door." Guess he forgot that part later on. Outside of work, things were simple. My wife, Jenna, was a school counselor. Calm, brilliant, loved kids. We didn't have much, just a small 2-bedroom outside Akron, but it was home. We had our Sunday rituals, grocery run, breakfast at Millie's Diner, and a shared pot of coffee while we watched home Reno shows we'd never actually try. She used to tell me, "I sleep easy knowing you keep the lights on, not just here, but for hundreds of people." And I believed her. I believed in myself. But looking back now, there were signs. Small ones. The new hires started getting more attention, especially the ones with flashy degrees and buzzword resumes. One of the VPs once said in a meeting, "We need to start future-proofing. Get lean. Go digital native." I remember joking, "Aren't we already digital? I'm literally the guy running your servers." They laughed, a little too politely. Then one of my internal audits, the ones I used to run quarterly, got reassigned. No explanation. Just an email. "Rick will handle this one moving forward." Even Susan from the front desk started avoiding eye contact. Weird, right? But sometimes the smallest shift screamed the loudest. Still, I ignored it. I told myself I was overthinking. Paranoid. I mean, who replaces a guy who's never had a single critical failure in 16 years? But the real answer was simpler. Everyone becomes replaceable. Eventually. They just don't always tell you when the countdown starts. At home, I started withdrawing. Not intentionally. Just, let's talk at dinner. More late nights. Checking logs. Jenna noticed. "You okay, Dan?" "Yeah. Just swamped." "I'm fine." But I wasn't. I felt it, like a shadow moving through the walls of a house you built with your own hands. Something had shifted, and I wasn't imagining it. One night, I stayed late. System migration. I ran into Rick by the break room. He was on the phone. "Didn't see me?" he said. "Yeah, we're bringing in someone younger, more agile. Dan's still useful, but we need evolution." I didn't move. Didn't cough. Didn't blink. Just backed away quietly. That was 2 weeks before Brandon arrived. Brandon acted like he was just excited to learn. That was his line. "I'm just here to soak it all in, Dan." Total sponge mode. But a sponge doesn't ask where the root passwords are on day 2. A sponge doesn't ask for access to the payroll database. Just to understand workflows. He wasn't curious. He was calculating. I started playing along. Showed him the basics. Set up a few demo accounts. Walked him through system architecture, but only the parts one wanted him to see. He smiled a lot. Took notes on his laptop. Never once wrote anything by hand. It didn't take long to realize he wasn't just learning. He was building a playbook. My playbook. Then came the meetings. Private ones. Rick and Brandon would close the door to the small conference room on the second floor. Lights dimmed. Projector running. I walked by once and saw my own system diagram on the screen. Not the public one. The one only I had access to. I didn't say anything. Didn't storm in. Didn't ask questions. Instead, I started documenting. Every weird request Brandon made. Every unexpected login time. Every folder he touched. Every copy he tried to make of restricted files. I set up a silent trigger, a simple script that logged access patterns and flagged anomalies. Brandon triggered it 7 times in 5 days. Then came the HR email. Subject: Preliminary Restructuring Framework, Confidential. They accidentally CC'd me. I opened it. Scanned the lines. My name wasn't on the new org chart. Brandon's was. Title: Director of Infrastructure, Pending Transition. That night, I didn't eat dinner. Didn't turn on the TV. I sat in the server room, just me and the hum. The blinking lights. The silence. I looked at the system I built, the network map, the resilience protocols, the disaster recovery flowcharts on the wall, everything I created over 16 years. And I whispered to myself, let's see what he does when it all runs just well enough to fail in slow motion. Over the next few days, I became invisible. No outbursts. No arguments. No second guessing. Just quiet compliance. I started feeding Brandon what he thought he needed. A mix of real procedures and legacy quirks that didn't exist. Scripts that would work under test conditions, but fail under pressure. I even told him, smiling, "You're picking this up fast. Might not even need me soon." He grinned, full of false humility. "Oh, I'm just trying to keep up with the legend." Inside, I was already a ghost. The company started handing him bigger pieces of the puzzle. Vendor meetings, cloud migration contracts, audit responses. I watched him swim deeper into waters he didn't know had sharks. And every now and then, I'd hear him talk about me like I was already gone. "Yeah, Dan's more of an old-school guy. Solid, but not exactly scalable." That one stuck with me. The final straw? Brandon requested full admin privileges on our disaster recovery platform without my approval. Rick signed off on it. That was the moment I realized they'd already handed him the keys. They just hadn't told me to leave yet. So I smiled. And I planned. Not with rage. Not with revenge in my heart. Just strategy. Because they didn't fire a technician. They fired the architect. And when you remove the architect without learning the blueprint, you better pray the walls hold. It was a Friday afternoon when everything snapped. Brandon had just wrapped up a team-wide presentation, his vision for the future of infrastructure. He used slides I made, graphics I created, even phrased certain points exactly the way I had in my documentation. Not once did he mention my name. Rick stood next to him the entire time, nodding like a proud mentor. And when it ended, Rick clapped first. Then he looked right at me, almost like he forgot I was still in the room, and said, "Dan, you should be proud. Look what you've helped build." That word, helped, felt like a funeral bell. Helped. Past tense. After the meeting, I returned to my desk. There was a small box sitting on my chair. No note. Just a box. I opened it. Inside were all my old server room keys and access cards, labeled, "For archive purposes. Turn in by end of month." No one said it, but the message was clear. "You're done here. Quietly. Cleanly." That night, I got home late. Jenna was already asleep. I sat at the kitchen table, lights off, laptop open. I reread the org chart. Reread the email. Reread Brandon's system access history. And then, I noticed something. He had logged into our redundant server, the one labeled ShadowNode, and made manual changes to the failover priority sequence. That server isn't listed in any public documentation. I created it years ago as a hidden failsafe, a trapdoor only I knew about in case ransomware or sabotage ever hit us. It wasn't meant for daily access. Brandon didn't just stumble on it. He had gone digging. And worse, he changed the sequence incorrectly. In a real failure, his setup would have looped the system into a restart cycle over and over, killing access, destroying logs, choking traffic across the entire company. That's when I snapped. Not loudly. Not with fists or shouting. No, I smiled. Because in that moment, I realized something powerful. They've handed the launch codes to a toddler and locked the adult out of the room. I didn't cry, didn't drink, didn't rant to Jenna. I just opened a blank notepad file and typed 3 words at the top. Let it burn. From that moment on, I wasn't looking for peace. I wasn't looking for fairness. I was building my blueprint for collapse. I didn't rage quit. I didn't slam a door or send an angry email. I became surgical, silent, precise. If they wanted Brandon to take over, I'd make sure he got exactly what he asked for, but with none of what he actually needed. I stopped teaching. Oh, I still trained him, answered questions, gave walkthroughs, but every explanation was 80% correct. Just enough to pass a test. Not enough to survive a real-world failure. I called it operational sand. Invisible flaws. Delays written in code. Example? Our cloud backup system had a double authentication mirror protocol. Brandon asked how it worked. I told him, just trigger the node merge, then validate with 1 token. I didn't mention that without 2 tokens, synced from separate IPs, the system silently corrupts the restoration files. It won't fail instantly. It'll work, then quietly rot. I started leaving behind misleading breadcrumbs, old documentation with subtle errors, charts with mislabeled ports, system maps with obsolete endpoints. Everything looked right. Everything was just wrong enough. I even renamed a few internal scripts, harmless on their own, but in a real emergency, they'd lead Brandon down rabbit holes of dead ends. I installed passive trackers. Not malware, just internal event loggers that traced access times, file movements, and system pings from Brandon's terminal. Every unauthorized change, logged. Every mistake, archived. Every time he fixed something that didn't need fixing, noted. By the end of 2 weeks, I had a 29-page PDF detailing every single time Brandon had accessed core systems without understanding what he was touching. I contacted a lawyer. Quietly. Explained the situation. Sent the logs. The emails. The org chart. Why? Because if this thing collapsed, and it would, I needed legal insulation. I wanted to make sure that when the fire started, no one could pin it on me. We drafted a memo, a full compliance warning addressed to the board. But I didn't send it yet. Not until the exact moment it would matter most. I drafted my resignation letter. Set it to autosend on a timed release, 48 hours after a scheduled system migration. Brandon had been so confident about leading himself. Then I prepared a final script. 1 line of code. Executed at 2 a.m. on migration night. It wouldn't destroy anything. It wouldn't hack or damage. It would simply redirect all server access logs to an external monitor, my monitor. So when chaos hit, I'd have a front row seat. And a full record. The final week, I was pleasant, friendly, even helpful. You got this, Brandon. Man, you're a natural. They're lucky to have someone like you. He soaked it all up. Never once questioned how quiet I had become. How eager I was to hand it all off. Rick? He didn't care. He was already talking about launching a second branch. Told me, once Brandon gets the systems in shape, we're going nationwide. I nodded, smiled, said, you'll get there, Rick. One way or another. Then came the Friday before migration weekend. I packed my things. Quietly. No box. No goodbye email. Just a flash drive in my pocket. A folder labeled, in case you ever wondered. And I walked out. No drama. No scene. Just the architect. Leaving the blueprint behind. Migration weekend came fast. Brandon was pumped, sending emails with subject lines like, "Ready for liftoff," and "Mission, Infrastructure Refresh." Rick copied the entire executive team. They even ordered catered lunch for the IT floor to celebrate the next era. I watched from home, logged into my private monitor, sipping black coffee at 1:58 a.m. At exactly 2 a.m., the first trigger executed. A harmless redirect. Not malicious, not destructive, just enough to expose what was really about to happen. Brandon initiated the server migration on the wrong node. That alone wouldn't have caused damage. But because of the silent changes he'd made, changes he thought were improvements, the secondary node tried to overwrite live production data instead of backing it up. Within 5 minutes, internal systems began to lag. Customer dashboards glitched. Auto billing ran twice for some accounts. The warehouse sync system sent 3 duplicate shipments, all to the same clients. At 2:14 a.m., the system attempted to fail over to our hidden recovery node, Shadow Node A. But because Brandon had messed with the sequence order without understanding the 2-token protocol I had built, the system began a recursive restart loop. They didn't know it yet, but from that moment forward, the company's entire digital infrastructure was like a car engine flooding itself with gasoline. It looked like it was running, until it exploded. At 3:03 a.m., Brandon sent his first panicked email. Subject: Urgent. System failover not working. Body: Need root recovery now. Logs not syncing. Backup server unreachable. I smiled. By 6 a.m., the operations team was fielding dozens of complaints. By 8:30 a.m., 3 major clients threatened to pull their contracts. By 9:15 a.m., Rick called Brandon into his office. I knew because I had audio. The compliance logger had kicked in automatically. The conversation wasn't pretty. "What the hell did you change?" "I followed the protocol." "This isn't the protocol. This is AF ****ing disaster." Brandon started stammering. Blamed my old documentation. Blamed legacy systems. He tried to throw my name under the bus, said I hadn't trained him properly. That's when the memo hit. At exactly 10 a.m., the legal team and the board of directors received a time-stamped, lawyer-reviewed email from my end with the subject line: Critical systems risk, documentation of internal sabotage and unauthorized access. It included logs, screenshots, a timeline, and a closing paragraph that read: I attempted to raise concerns regarding unauthorized system changes on multiple occasions. This documentation is being submitted as evidence in the event of any future inquiry or incident. I didn't even have to accuse Brandon. The proof spoke. By noon, Brandon was escorted out of the building. No party. No handshake. No lunch. Just silence. Rick didn't look much better. Turns out, the board had never approved Brandon's hire as a full replacement. Rick had fast-tracked him, bypassed formal IT security review, and misreported several performance metrics to justify the transition. They reviewed his emails. They found the org chart edit. They found the confidential compliance forms he tried to forge. Within 48 hours, Rick was asked to resign. The best part? Nothing I did was illegal. I didn't hack. I didn't sabotage. I didn't plant malware or destroy anything. I simply let the systems run, exactly the way they were handled after I left. I gave them a gift, the truth, delivered in real time. 1 week later, I received a call from one of the board members. They asked if I consider returning as a consultant, said they'd double my old salary. give me full control, even let me restructure the department. I thanked them, paused, and said, "You don't need me back. You just need to remember, systems aren't just hardware. They're people. And you replaced the wrong one." Then I hung up. It's been 8 months since I walked out of Grayson and Wells. I never went back. Didn't need to. They offered. Repeatedly. But the damage wasn't to my job. It was to my belief in the people running it. Since then, life's quieter. Better. I took some time off. Rebuilt my workshop at home. Consulted for a few small businesses, mom and pop shops that actually care about their systems, their people, their culture. There's something freeing about working with clients who don't treat you like a cost to be cut the moment you stop smiling. Jenna noticed the change almost immediately. I was lighter, laughing more, sleeping better. One night she looked at me over dinner and said, "I don't think I've seen you this calm ever." She was right. Turns out, peace doesn't come from a corner office or a director title. It comes from knowing you didn't let the wrong people rewrite your story. As for Brandon, last I heard, he tried to get a job at another tech firm. But corporate IT is a small world. People talk. And when they saw his name, they checked the logs. My logs. He didn't get the job. Rick? I heard he started a podcast. Leadership for the Digital Age. Irony has a weird sense of humor. The company is still standing, barely. But they rebuilt their infrastructure from scratch. New team. New philosophy. And I heard they never again let one man train his replacement without an audit trail and oversight. Maybe that's my real legacy. Not the code. Not the systems. The lesson. Because here's what I've learned. Loyalty means nothing to people who only see line items. But that doesn't mean you stop being loyal to your craft, your values, your self-respect. Sometimes the best revenge isn't sabotage. It's letting people live with the consequences of their own arrogance. I didn't destroy the company. I just let them run it without the truth. And the truth, left unattended, did exactly what I knew it would. So no, I don't miss that job. I miss who I thought I was while I was there. But now I build my own path. Quietly. Proudly. For people who deserve it. She took everything. Except my soul. And from that, I rebuilt my life. Not for revenge. Not for applause. Not even for closure. But for me.